Morgan.
And I'm Jake, and this is
Neverland Navigation Radio,
where we take a trip into a certain classic enchanted Walt Disney World and Disneyland attraction. What are we doing today, Morgan?
We are doing the history of the Tiki Room.
Well said. Yeah, I'm so excited for this one.
Oh my gosh, there's so much history. I thought I knew. Oh, and then I went digging and I was like, there's so much more.
Really? More than you could even imagine?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I'm excited. The Tiki Room is definitely comes to mind when we agreed that for a couple episodes we were going to focus on Disney classic attractions. And I think what is and what is not a classic attraction can have a little bit of wiggle room for debate.
Yeah.
But the Enchanted Tiki Room is not up for debate. It is
Right.
solidly a Disney classic.
Yes.
You know?
I think so too. And I think we could probably do a few more than 2 classics. Maybe we'll keep going. Because this was fascinating. I love it when I'm doing a history project for Neverland Navigation and it deep dives into when Walt was alive.
Yeah.
That warms my heart.
Mine also, I won't give it away, but mine also is personally Walt involved, as the classics generally are. And that does just add a special little level of magic to it to know that he was involved.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you're going to get into it, but this one is like so deeply tied to, you know, his visions for the theme parks and stuff. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, and at least he was flexible on his visions for the theme parks, I will say. Some people will make those comments sometimes, like, when you talk about what Walt wanted for Epcot and then what it became, they'll be like, "Oh, Walt's rolling over in his grave." But I don't know that I agree with that. And it's because of rides like this, where he originally had this one, he envisioned it one way, and then it wound up being something totally different. But he was happy to change it to what it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He was fine with the flex. He was flexible and fine with kind of rolling with the punches, and it just kind of taking its own shape instead of what he originally imagined.
Yeah, and as the more that we do these classic attractions, the more you realize that he was that kind of like he was trusting enough in the creative team that he selected to allow the evolution to happen.
Yes, exactly.
Because in some of them it was going to be a walkthrough, it was going to be something totally different than it ended up. But sometimes that's just where the creative process led the team, and respecting that and giving them the space to bring what they believe to be the best version of the experience to life, I think is part of what made Walt Disney a visionary. Was giving his people, you know, the room to do what they do.
Exactly. And he was fine with that. He was a part of a lot of the changes of the early things. When you look at a lot of the classics, you find out what he envisioned, and it's pretty much never what it winds up being.
Yeah.
And he was alive for that, and he was okay with it. It was part of it. You know, it's like anything.
Right. He was an idea man.
And he wanted change and expected change. And so it is.
All right. Before we dive in, I'm so excited. But before we dive in, we wanted to say thank you guys so much for listening. If you enjoy the show, we would love to have you guys, if you're on an audio platform like Apple Podcasts or Spotify, if you would leave us a review for the podcast, it would help the show out so much and we would really appreciate it. And of course, if you would like to see the visual version of the podcast, we upload that weekly to the Neverland Navigation Co. YouTube channel, and we would love to see you over there as well.
Yes, and if you are thinking about taking a Disney World, Disneyland, Disney Cruise Line, or any other kind of vacation, please consider sending me an email at neverlandnavigationco@gmail.com, because I am a free-to-you travel agent that can get you as good of a deal as you can hunt out yourself, or better, a lot of times better, and I get paid commission by the place that you're traveling to without it costing you more. So I give back by giving you free trip t-shirts for letting me help you. So it's a win-win-win, and something that I really appreciate as a small business owner.
Absolutely. Enchanted Tiki Room t-shirts, please.
Yeah. I have made a bunch of Enchanted Tiki Room shirts over the years, actually.
Yes, I've seen many designs. Something that I love about the Enchanted Tiki Room, we were talking...
And Dole Whip, which I feel like they go hand in hand.
Well, yeah. It's the same part of the experience.
Yeah. For me, for my personal taste, you have one can't have one without the other. But go on.
I agree. They are best together. But something that we were just talking about, we love about the Enchanted Tiki Room is the aesthetic.
Yes.
The poster, the merchandise,
Yes.
all of the surrounding kind of design that goes with the Enchanted Tiki Room. We always love.
It's hard to deny, even if you're not a fan of the Tiki Room, because maybe it doesn't have that nostalgia factor for you personally.
Yeah.
Then the merch is still so awesome.
Totally.
The whole area has such a pleasing aesthetic to it.
Yeah.
You really feel like you're in the tropical kind of Polynesian getaway, you know?
And the color palette is so vibrant.
Yeah, so vibrant.
We love it.
I can taste the Dole Whip right now.
All right.
Okay, so I am going to begin at the beginning. Okay. As you should, right?
Absolutely.
But there will be some jumping around because the Tiki Room, as I'm going to call it for the purpose of this podcast, although it has had many names.
Right, okay.
Has been in multiple parks over different decades, and I just feel like there's going to be some jumping around happening, so I'm just letting you know.
All right, gotcha.
That's just, I think, an unavoidable thing that's going to happen. So beginning at the beginning, the Tiki Room first opened on June 23rd, 1963. So this was not an opening day attraction, but it was at the very beginning.
Yeah, very early, not even a decade into the park.
Right. This was the first attraction to actually feature audio animatronics.
Yeah, wow.
So that's crazy. They had already been working on audio animatronics, and I believe that Mr. Lincoln had already been created, but he wasn't in the park.
Right. Okay. Yes. Got you.
This was not a World's Fair attraction. A lot of people think that it was, but it was not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Because Lincoln was a World's Fair attraction.
Yeah,
so
and
that, I guess
Small
that makes sense.
World was, and it's easy to get confused, I think.
And there were no real animatronics in It's a Small World, and there are, it is kind of, I guess I could see where the confusion would come from.
Yeah. That's weird. I hadn't really given that any thought until you just said it. I didn't think about It's a Small World having no animatronics. Does it kind of have animatronics?
Would you consider
like the tiger
one motion to be animatronic? It's hard. I don't know.
Well, they said audio animatronic, so there has to be noise involved too.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
So then you're probably right.
Yeah, the programming with the noise frequencies.
Yes. This was also the first attraction in Disneyland to have air conditioning, which is something that I will probably get into a little bit more later on why.
Ooh.
Yeah. But
wait, the first one with air conditioning?
Yes.
What?
Can you believe? But to be fair, California's climate is much more agreeable year-round than Florida's is.
Oh, gotcha.
We would never. You know what I mean? We wouldn't make it.
Okay, yeah.
But in California,
no.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay, so before we move on, Disney does consider the dolls on It's a Small World to be audio animatronics because they are programmed with the same like audio frequency technology, it seems.
Okay.
I think. Wait, when did It's a Small World open?
I know. Okay, so now I'm confused about this. So this could have just been incorrect information. That it's the first.
No. This opened in 1966 in the park as well.
Oh, okay. And this was 63.
And that was 63. So this had not come to the parks yet. Okay. So yeah, absolutely.
Well, and you can feel free to fact check me if you want on if it was the first attraction with audio animatronics. There are about 150 audio animatronics in this.
Oh my gosh, really? Crazy. That's a lot. Actually, that's more than I even thought.
Actually, let me go on to say that different sources state different numbers, and it ranges from 150 to 225 to 314. Very specific different numbers that I have found. But 150 is the one that I see the most.
Okay, got it.
So that's the one that I am going with.
The internet says you are absolutely correct, and it is the first ride with animatronic with
audio animatronics.
Audio animatronics.
Okay.
Amazing.
Okay. Yes.
Like a breakthrough. It's crazy to think of a Disney park without audio animatronics. I know. Like it's their signature thing for rides, pretty much.
Yeah, for real. And I mean, to start off with birds, I think makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, they have they have a hard time, and they especially had a hard time back then with humans. I honestly, we still think they have a hard
Sometimes.
time.
Sometimes.
Yeah, but they did get Mr.
You're talking about
Lincoln.
Ariel, aren't you?
I'm talking about Ariel.
Yeah, in the Under the Sea ride.
Yeah, there have been others though.
She's not alone.
She's not alone. The more recent ones I think have been good.
The animals do tend to be almost always like
Good.
Convincing.
Yes.
And good.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Easier to do
Although
than the nuance of a human.
Although when you were a kid, did you go to the Tiki Room under new management?
Yeah, that is actually the version that I probably experienced the most.
Yes. Agreed.
Yeah.
I feel like that Iago's a little off.
Yeah, I completely agree.
I don't know why.
His proportions are a little off.
Right?
He's like too big and his movements are a little weird. Yeah,
right.
I always felt that way about him.
So he's a little off, I think, from what I would have. I mean, we know the Aladdin movie, of course, like the back of our hands. So,
yes, right.
So maybe that's part of the problem. But I feel like they've gotten most animals they do really well.
Agreed. Do you know why this, like, what was it because the birds were like the easiest animatronic that they could make, or why did they go with birds? Do you know?
So it's because Walt went on a trip to New Orleans and he came back, which is wild. He came back with what was it was like a toy. It was, they said antique when I was reading about the history of this, and I don't have this written down. So let me see if I have this written down. Maybe I've anyway. Let's see.
Oh, what, the bird?
Yes. I was trying to get specifics. So it started with a mechanical bird in a cage. So this is I was looking for my source. Sorry. Yeah, according to Imagineer Walthall Rogers. Okay. He said that the Tiki Room started with a mechanical bird in a cage that he purchased at a shop in New Orleans.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I've heard on some, whether it was the Imagineering story, somewhere I feel like I've heard the story before in some way. So it was a gift for his wife?
Yes. And
gotcha.
But it wound up being property of the Imagineers because he basically took the bird and gave it to the Imagineers and was like, figure this out.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
That's kind of funny.
Yeah.
To think about. This is a present for my wife, except you can't have it.
Yeah. I'm sure in his intention was for it to be a gift to his wife. But it is interesting that the technology already existed, but maybe I'm imagining a mechanical bird that does more than it actually did, and maybe it did almost nothing.
Well, the history of automatons and like animated figures goes way, way back.
Really?
To like the old world. To like in Europe in like, I want to say the 1800s is when they first started making like mechanical figures. They were made with gears and levers and stuff like that. They weren't like electrically powered because it was before electricity was like a main source of power that people were using for stuff like that. But they had like, there were some crazy ones that were like people who could write things and stuff.
Really?
And it was all...
I didn't know this.
Yeah, that it was all through like gear mechanisms, and there would be a rotating cylinder that when it turned, it moved a certain sequence of things.
Yeah.
It was crazy. But
fascinating.
My thought, I haven't really researched this part of the Tiki Room, but my thought was it was probably one of those things because by a certain point, their novelty had worn off to some degree, and they were being sold in like trade fairs and stuff as like gifts for you to buy. Okay. So my thought would be probably that he ended up with one of those, and he was like, how can we do this? Which I think is kind of a testament to him saying, okay, there's this thing that's like gifts you can buy for people that are like mechanical. How can we turn that into like a show-stopping, like entertainment attraction?
Yes. Okay, well that's fascinating because to me, I was thinking, how did this exist before they created it? You know what I mean?
Oh, like animatronics as a thing. I think Disney revolutionized like a hydraulic animatronic, but that
and put it to audio.
Yeah, the way that an audio relay programs the movement of the animatronic, I think Disney created that.
Yes, and they patented it.
And that comes, I think, from this, right? This was the first time they ever did that. That is so crazy to think about.
Yes, and actually military tech was involved. Did you know that?
No.
So back in the 1950s, the arms race led to the development of a magnetic tape system that was used to control missiles. And they used that same, they used the same tape system to the Imagineers took it and they used that to sync the movements of the birds, the lights, and the audio in the show to the music.
Wow.
Yes, this isn't something that my brain can comprehend without more information.
No, we don't know.
Fascinating.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's crazy to think about.
Yeah, the thing that I didn't find, although I looked for a minute, is how the information got from the military into Disney Imagineers world, but this kind of thing has happened before. When we talked about Soarin' on a different history episode where we did the history of Soarin', we found that the way the ride motion simulator type, or was it Star Tours?
I think it was Star Tours. Yeah, they got it from like the Air Force or something, right?
Right. I mean, it might not have been the U.S. Air Force. I actually think that they went over to Germany, maybe.
Oh, okay. That sounds familiar.
Or to Europe somewhere. So it was somebody's Air Force, maybe. But anyway, it was something that started military, and then the Disney Imagineers like, how can we turn this into entertainment? Like you were saying, which is just fascinating.
Yeah, to think. Honestly, the idea of adaption, like adapting that to be for a totally different use, to me is so creative that
your brain could even work like that.
I know. It's like, maybe you could have created a whole system from the ground up to do this, but to take what you have and use it to get the result that you need is its own kind of creativity. Amazing. No, I did not know that. Military technology. These birds are army birds.
Yeah. I found that fascinating.
That is fascinating.
Okay, so back to this is what's gonna happen. All right, so
we get to squawking.
Yeah. So I told you that in 1963, that's when the Tiki Room opened in Disneyland. On October 1st, 1971. Oh, hold on. It says Tropical Serenade. Walt Disney World's version of Enchanted Tiki Room debuted in 1971. It was as Tropical Serenade. I'm sorry. So when Disney World opened theirs as an opening day attraction, it was called Tropical Serenade, not the Tiki Room.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. That's an interesting distinction.
It's interesting. I think here's why I find it so interesting. They've changed names a bunch, and to have it be wildly popular in Disneyland, it was wildly popular in Disneyland. That's why it was a no-brainer for this to be an opening day attraction in Walt Disney World.
Right.
Why would you change the name? There have to be a reason, right? But there can't really be, because they wound up changing it to Tiki Room later. As a matter of fact, let me go through the name change whole ordeal with you, if you don't mind.
Sure, yeah.
So when it opened, and this is just the Disney World version, when it opened in 71, it was called Tropical Serenade. Then it changed to the Enchanted Tiki Room in early 1996.
Oh, okay. In my brain, it was, for some reason, I didn't think about the fact that it had to be the Enchanted Tiki Room again before it was the under new management. Takeover
so
thing.
That was in 1996.
So 3 name changes.
Oh, I'm not done.
Oh my gosh.
So in late 1996, they changed it to Enchanted Tiki Birds. So I don't know why. I don't like.
That's so
was it
weird.
Doing poorly, and they thought a name change would help? I don't know. I have no.
You always pick these ones where it's called Take Flight, and now it's called Dream Flight, and now it's called Delta Dream Flight.
And the thing that is terrible about that is my curious brain wants to know why. I want somebody to answer for this, and nobody is.
Because usually that's not something that Disney would ever really comment on.
Yes, and they're not going to do it lightly.
Exactly.
Because they've got to change all the math. maps. They've got to change the signage.
Oh, yeah.
So there's got to be
It's a big
reason.
decision.
What's your reason?
Sometimes
Maps,
it's like sponsorship.
posters.
Was this
Yes,
ever sponsored?
No, it has been sponsored the entire time in Walt Disney World by hold on.
Is it the airline?
I have no, not here.
Okay.
Here it was the Florida Citrus Growers.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Let's see. I've got it right here. Maybe it's Dole now. Hold on. No, it's not. It's still Walt Disney World, Florida Citrus Growers from 1971 to 1986.
Okay. So in the original
that there's a sponsor for the Walt Disney World version now. I'm not sure if there is.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I'm thinking there's not, actually.
But you're right, that would make sense. But it looks like the Florida Citrus Growers pulled out in 86, but that's not when the name changed. The name changed a decade later. So maybe you're right, maybe that's it. And I just didn't see that, or I didn't make that connection. So anyway, they went from Tropical Serenade to the Enchanted Tiki Room to the Enchanted Tiki Birds. And then in 1998, the attraction was reimagined to the Enchanted Tiki Room under new management.
Okay.
Which had Iago from Aladdin and Zazu from The Lion King, but also kept the 4 original main birds.
Okay, got it.
Right. So, and then it changed back to, it renamed to Walt Disney's Enchanted Tiki Room in 2011.
I love that.
That's what it is now.
That's what it should be.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Sure.
I think putting Walt Disney's name on top of the attractions that he had real direct creative involvement in is a no-brainer.
Well, and when we get to the sponsorship part, you'll find that he actually put, I don't know if people care about this, but he put his own money into it. So sounds like, of course he did. It's his park, it's his stuff, but
he didn't always.
He didn't. Most of these rides were sponsored.
Right.
They got a sponsor. The sponsor was involved in a little bit of the creation or
the theme.
He couldn't get a sponsor for this to begin with, so he put his own money into it. So I think it's
just
fair.
Like Michael Eisner did with Soarin'.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
I would like a list of Disney rides that executives have poured their own money into.
Yeah.
That would be interesting. Just so you know, this is currently sponsored by Dole, it turns out.
Okay, cool. And so let me just pop over. See, this is what's going to happen. This is how I'm out of order, but that's okay. So sponsorship, let's talk about that for just a second. So in Disneyland, first it was just Walt and his own money because they didn't get a sponsor. Nobody really had a connection to Tiki Birds or knew what the heck he was talking about when he was talking about Audio-Animatronics and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
Plus, what we'll get into later is what it was originally supposed to be is not what it wound up being. So, so after it opened, or right before it opened, United Airlines decided to sponsor it.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So that's the airline like you were talking about. They sponsored it from 1963 to 1976. And the reason this made sense is because Hawaii had just become a state. And they were doing flights. United was doing flights from the continental US to Hawaii, and it became an overnight vacation sensation.
Gotcha.
And United wanted to kind of make a connection between Hawaii and their airline via this Polynesian tropical.
I totally get it.
Yeah, I get it too.
They're like, right now you're taking your vacation at Walt Disney World.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe your next
Disneyland.
vacation,
Yeah.
Disneyland.
Nope, that's okay.
Maybe your next vacation should be to Hawaii.
Yes.
I get it.
Yeah. It makes sense. I don't know if they said anything in the ride about it,
Right. It was subliminal.
Yeah.
I get that. I feel like most of the sponsorships are like that.
To say, yeah. Although there are some that are very obvious, like Delta Dream Flight.
Right.
Which before that, I believe, was Eastern Air or whatever.
Okay.
And part of that ride, it's about the history of flight, but part of the ride is showing you different places you could go if you took a Delta plane.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right. That one was heavy-handed.
Yeah.
Right.
It was a little bit of an ad. An ad I loved with my whole heart.
Yes. It was a very sincere ad,
yes.
though. I will say I'm on the Disney wiki, so who knows? But like it says the Disneyland version has been sponsored by Dole since the 70s.
Yeah.
But it says the Disney World version was only sponsored by the Florida citrus growers from 1971 to 1986.
That might have been where I got that information.
And then that there were no other sponsors that it lists. So I don't know if it's current. I don't think it's our version. Maybe I don't think it is currently sponsored.
Is there another source that might be better?
I can look, yeah.
But you don't have to. I mean, I'm just.
Yeah,
it's not that relevant. The most interesting part was the United Airlines. I found that interesting, especially with the connection to Hawaii becoming an out of nowhere vacation destination.
I'd never made that, like, I would never think of that historical connection between Hawaii becoming a state.
Exactly. And them deciding to sponsor the Tiki Room. So after United Airlines, then Dole Foods took over from 1976 to present. And here's the fascinating thing. And as a matter of fact, this might make you think that Dole is not our sponsor now. Dole took over as the sponsor for the attraction in 1976, and part of their stipulation in their contract of sponsoring the Tiki Room is that the attraction remain unchanged.
Really? Okay, yes. Interesting.
Fascinating. Fascinating. Opposite of Kodak and Figment, if you listen to that.
Right.
If you listen to that podcast where we delved into that, because they were like, we want an update.
We demand
an update. And
for our money.
Really poorly, yeah. And as did the update that Walt Disney World did, it went poorly.
Right.
So anyway, Dole also decided to sell pineapple treats like Dole Whip in the area, and that became a hit. And like I said at the beginning of this episode, I find them one and the same.
Well, we totally have them to thank.
Yes.
You know, we have the Enchanted Tiki Room to thank for Dole Whip.
That's true.
I guess.
You're absolutely right.
From what you're telling me.
Yes, because Dole decided to sponsor the Tiki Room, and then they started to sell Dole Whip. Yes.
Amazing.
Yes.
Do people know that we have them to thank for that? That's awesome.
I didn't even really make that connection until you literally just said it.
I didn't know that Dole had sponsored the Disneyland version.
Yeah.
I was not aware of that. That's really interesting.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see. The name change, I'm still confused about that. Tropical Serenade, why?
I don't know, because isn't that what he was originally going to call the restaurant when it was going to be a restaurant?
I didn't see anything about the name that it was going to be as a restaurant. Do you think I should go into the restaurant stuff now?
I mean, sure.
Okay. Don't let me forget to jump back to Tokyo.
No,
that's a little interesting.
I want to know about Tokyo for sure.
Okay. So it was originally going to be a timed 1-hour dinner and show.
Oh, like a dinner. I mean,
yes,
that's what you just said, but a dinner show. Interesting.
Where people couldn't stay longer than an hour because they needed to go, you know?
That's fine.
And now, because that was part of the problem. At first, he just said he wanted it to be a dinner show. Actually, before that, not before that, but the original, and this really is a testament to how flexible he is when you're getting into it, and he's like, okay, I see now that my original idea didn't work. Let's pivot in this direction, was for it to be a Chinese restaurant. So let me see if I can find the specifics.
That's quite a different theme.
Yes. So according to Disney Studios machinist Roger Brogy.
Okay, someone from the inside of the process. Love
Walt
that.
told his Imagineers, quote, I want to have a Chinese restaurant at the park. Out in the lobby will be an old Chinese fellow like Confucius.
Okay.
Not an actor, but a figure. Now, the customers will ask him questions, and he'll reply with words of wisdom. The restaurant was also to feature a dinner show accompanied by an assortment of animals, real and imagined, including birds, and a fire-breathing, joke-telling dragon.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow.
Wow. That was the original concept he had.
Really interesting.
Yes. Then they decided that the human animatronics, they were too far away from being able to do this Confucius thing, which is a little interesting, because then they wound up doing the Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln. And that so Mr. Lincoln was unveiled a year after the Tiki Room.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Really? Okay, so they were like right on the verge, but they were like not yet.
They just didn't feel like they had it.
Yeah.
So that got the Chinese philosopher and the dragon were abandoned, and the Chinese food. I mean,
yeah, right. Yeah. They completely pivoted.
Yes. So then it was going to be like a Polynesian type restaurant, and there are a few telltale signs of how far that made it. It's not like this first one where it was a Chinese restaurant with a Confucius and a dragon. Yeah. That was just talking in Walt's head. Maybe made it to a sketch
that
I haven't seen. Blue Sky. Gotcha. There you go. The restaurant made it all the way to like when they were building it, this is what they were thinking.
Oh, when they were building the building, yes. They were building it to be a restaurant. No, I didn't know that.
So here's the things that made it all the way and are still there. Wild. There is a fountain in there that was supposed to be a coffee station for servers, and it still has cabinets.
Oh my god.
Yes. There are also bathrooms in the Tiki Room in Disneyland, and that is because in California in the 60s, you were not allowed to have an indoor restaurant without bathrooms in the building.
So there's a bathroom in that attraction?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
They people jokingly call it the world's smallest bathroom. I haven't seen it. I actually didn't. I've been to the Tiki Room in Disneyland. I did not.
Next time.
Oh, you bet.
She's gonna send me a picture of the bathroom.
I swear to God. I'm against bathroom pictures, but this is happening.
Well, you're gonna be the only one in there.
I'm the only one in there. Yeah.
It's the world's smallest bathroom.
It's gotta be like I'm imagining an airplane bathroom.
Wait, so you're telling me the reason that there's that fountain in the middle of the ride is because that's where the coffee serving station is? Well,
that's not the reason, but that was going to be a coffee station / fountain, and that is the reason that it has cabinets underneath, which I guess it wouldn't be in hours. Otherwise, I would totally go try to
open it.
Or ask a cast member, like, "Hey, yeah," and they'd show you. I'm sure in Disneyland, if you said to a cast member, "Hey, is that actually still a cabinet?" They would probably open it for you.
What?
Yes. So
that's amazing.
Yeah. So that's how far it made it. It made it far.
Yeah, it was ready. It was zoned, I'm sure, and stuff. Ready to be a restaurant.
Yes, exactly. So.
Oof.
So that's fascinating.
So it was really last minute, right when the park opened, basically.
Well, no, the park had been open. Remember, this was this ride opened in 60 something.
Oh, right.
So the restaurant would have shared its kitchen with the now defunct Tahitian Terrace in Adventureland and the Plaza Pavilion restaurant at the corner of Main Street. So this is also fascinating if you weren't already aware. If you look at aerial view of this. This is now Jolly Holiday, the Tiki Room, and then something else. Oh, the tropical, wherever they sell Dole Whip.
Hideaway or something.
That's all one building that is in kind of a smiley shape, and you don't even know that because it changes from looking like it should be on Main Street to looking like it should be in the Adventureland area. Fascinating.
Very
it's not like they're next to each other. They're all connected. So
that the fact that they're in a cluster, but depending on which side of the cluster you're looking at, because of the theming around it and the theming of the building, you can not tell that they're all together.
Right.
That's what Disney does best. They're so good at that.
I know. I noticed this a little bit in ours. The thing that's in this location in Disney World is the Crystal Palace, and it doesn't go into Adventureland, but if you look at it from the Main Street side, it's all white, and the awning. Have I talked to you about this? The awnings to the window are white and very Main Street. And if you look at it from the Adventureland side, it's got green awnings over the windows, and it's starting to just kind of blend you in.
Oh
wait, we'll look at it.
I've never noticed that before.
It's not much. It's not all of a sudden there's leaves on the wall, but it goes from white to a dark green.
Wow, really interesting.
Yeah. So anyway,
look at Disney.
I know.
In the 70s, you're telling me they were doing that?
Yeah.
What?
Oh, the 60s.
And this is the 60s. Yeah. Wow.
So those three things would have all been restaurants, so they would have shared a kitchen.
Okay. I mean, that does make sense.
The Tahitian Terrace was a dinner type show with Hawaiian, like,
Oh, okay.
luau
Yeah, like a
dancing
luau.
and fire breathing,
I could see
maybe
that.
that whole thing. Yeah.
We had a similar
Yeah.
experience at the Polynesian for
Yes.
many years.
When I saw that, that's what it reminded me of.
Yeah,
Totally.
absolutely.
Yes, I wasn't really familiar with the Tahitian terrace until I started doing this research.
Me neither, but that's what it brings to mind for me too. Is that luau experience they have?
Yes. So,
what is that now? Do you know the Tahitian?
I think it's where you get Dole Whipped.
Okay, right. Yeah. That makes sense because that's what's right next to the Tiki Room.
Yeah. So what they wound up finding out is that they were worried people would want to stay past an hour. Just things weren't making sense. They were worried for all of these different reasons.
Gotcha. They were hitting the roadblocks.
Yes. Okay. And at the very beginning of it, when they were first drawing up designs for the restaurant, there was a lot of confusion. It was just crazy. So yeah, that he just wound up pivoting kind of last minute and making it, I believe it was a 17-minute show at the beginning.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's quite long.
Yes.
17 minutes.
Yeah.
Attractions used to be really long, huh? Carousel of Progress, Horizons.
Yeah. And then...
not the same era, but still, that classic Disney stuff was long attractions.
Yeah. Yes. And then... Raleigh Crump I have a quote from him too, but it's basically about all the stuff I said, but I'll go ahead.
Yeah.
So in an interview with Raleigh Crump, he says, we were sitting in one of those little rooms and Walt told us, we're making some changes to Adventureland and I think I'd like to put a tiki room there. Just a little tiki room. And then he said, sure, Walt. We all said, that sounds just fine. And I wanted it to be a restaurant. And we assured Walt that a restaurant would be just fine too. So they really believed in this. Yeah.
I mean, it sounds delightful. My question for you is it too late for them to make it a restaurant again? Because that sounds great.
I think that it would be a lot more popular if they did.
Me too. Like with good Polynesian food.
Yeah,
Yum.
I don't think that the Walt Disney World version was ever built in a way to facilitate that.
Right, and I don't think with us we already have a couple of Polynesian themed restaurants in our Polynesian themed resort, so I don't know that they would double down. Maybe they would. I don't know. They do.
I wouldn't mind them bringing over something like Bengal Barbecue and serving it in there.
What's that?
So Bengal Barbecue is a quick serve in Disneyland that is across the street. I'm doing air quotes because it's a walking path.
Okay.
From the Indiana Jones ride.
Oh, okay.
And they serve these skewers of meat or they have vegetables too if you're a vegetarian or vegan, but they're marinated in such a lovely way that this place always has like lines like you wouldn't believe.
Ooh, that sounds good.
It's skewers. That's their whole thing.
I'm
amazing.
Down for that. That's good theme park food.
And very Polynesian.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
That's what they do at our Polynesian restaurant. Ohana and the Polynesian, don't they do skewers of meat?
This is like a quick serve. A skewer is like $7.99.
I love that.
I know.
How cool to walk around with that in Adventureland.
Yes.
I want to eat my meat off a spear when I'm in Adventureland.
I know,
right? Fun.
Yeah.
Okay, really cool. So you were going to tell me a little bit about Tokyo as well, the Tokyo version of this attraction.
Yes. So, well, let me, okay. Well, let me jump back to the Walt Disney World version for just a minute.
That's okay. That's the one. That's ours. That's our home territory.
Yeah. So, it changed to the Enchanted Tiki Birds. No, under new management is what it was called.
Right.
And it was just not well received. But like you went on it and I went on it. I liked it.
As a kid, it was well received by me.
Yeah.
Because, I wasn't familiar with the original version of the attraction
and they were still there, so I'm not sure I understand what the issue is.
Yeah. I mean,
if it was gutted, I would understand.
Yeah. No.
Because I'd be with you because I feel like that way about the Great Movie Ride. But adding a couple of IP never upsets me. I mean, it upset people with the Small World and Disneyland too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because there is a certain. Here's why it wouldn't upset me even if it happened right now. you know, is because ours is not the original version of this attraction anyway.
Exactly.
You know, if that happened at the Disneyland version, I think that's why people were upset with It's a Small World.
Yeah,
is because
but they can't. Dole says no. Anyway.
yeah, Dole says no changes. So yeah, I definitely get that. I get why people are a little bit upset about that, I guess. But for the Enchanted Tiki Room, it never really bothered me that they tried to inject IP in here, and they added an animatronic to the several animatronics with Iago and Zazu, but they also added the Tiki Goddess that came out of the planter thing, and I think that was, as a kid, I thought that was a really cool fluid animatronic that I was always excited to see. So, you know, I think that's kind of a win, even if you have to deal with some whatever Lion King jokes or, you know, who cares?
Yeah.
That's how I thought of it.
I know. I liked it. I should not have jumped to that one because I still haven't even gotten into the original Disneyland version.
Okay.
I wanted to do a little bit of talking about what the show became after the restaurant thing, like what it became ultimately.
Okay.
And then they went through some changes along the way. So there's still a lot there. And then there's the Disney World version, and then there's the Tokyo version. So I'm thinking we might want to go ahead and take a break and make this a part 2.
Okay, yeah. I think there's a lot to cover
there's just a lot.
the Enchanted Tiki Room.
There's a lot because there were a bunch of things historically with the original Tiki Room in Disneyland. There's a bunch of things to do with Walt and his original ideas, and then you get into the Disney World and where they tried to branch off, and then you get into Tokyo and they also took some branching off, and it's just a lot of fascinating stuff.
All right, absolutely. Well, hey, don't go too far. Stick with us because birds of a feather stick together. And if you guys would like to consume some more Neverland Navigation Co. content in the meantime, we would love to see you over on our social media platforms. Well, they're not our platforms, but we have accounts there. On TikTok, we didn't invent TikTok and Instagram.
No.
But we're at Neverland Nav Co. on both.
We are.
And we would love to see you over there.
Yes. We also have an Etsy shop called Neverland Navigation on Etsy, where we make shirts and dish towels and just sweatshirts and whatever that you want with whatever theme you want. So you would just send me a message. If you love the Tiki Birds, just go to Etsy, go to Neverland Navigation, and then send me a message and say you love the Tiki Birds, and I'll send you all of the designs I've already created.
Yeah.
And we can figure out what shirt or dish towel you might want. And
I love when people ask you to make a Dole Whip.
I know.
I think that's so fun.
I have done a bunch of Dole Whip stuff. Dole Whip is like universally loved. You know what I mean?
I think this is the most we've discussed Dole Whip on the podcast.
Yeah,
maybe I know we've talked about it before.
We did a snacks episode a long time ago. We probably got into Dole Whip then.
Oh yeah, you know what? That's probably true. But Dole Whip stuff never goes out of style in my brain. I love seeing Dole Whip.
So it tastes amazing, and then it makes for really cute merch.
Yeah, it's true.
I love the creamy, pineapple-y aloha-ness of Dole Whip.
Me too.
And then we found out like a couple years ago that it's also dairy-free, which is like amazing.
What a win.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Awesome. So the Neverland Navigation Etsy shop, which is our 5-star Etsy shop, is also where you would get your free t-shirts from if you send me an email at neverlandnavigationco@gmail.com and let me help you book a trip to anywhere.
Absolutely. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us on this episode, and we'll see you on our next adventure. Goodbye.
Bye.